this is the national holiday of my people, the Irish. Happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody. I just wore green earrings because I like the shirt. I wanted to tell you two things. In addition to all of the opulence of too much food we always give you, we do that so that secretly you'll come back each time. You're also going to have a hot lunch delivered at 10:30, and it's a small one. It's a half a sandwich and a cup of hot soup from the local fudge shop here in town. And we like to support local and buy local and help our neighbors stay in business during these hard times. So that'll be delivered just as we're calling the raffles. I also wanted to tell you how lucky you are to get a tour of Steadfast Farm. This place is phenomenal. Eric Schultz has taught ag at Mesa Community College. He's on the speaker circuit at conferences and gets $2,000 a speech sometimes. He's very famous. He's very hard to get a hold of. And he even has to be slightly late. One of his employees is going to start the tour because he finally got a doctor's appointment he's wanted a long time. But he will tell you the straight skivvy. Ask him directly any business question you want to know. He actually told everybody, I made $250,000 in 2018. This is what on just 2 acres. He used to have a lot more acreage than that. And he originally built Agritopia. That was his first job. And he has learned to approach home builders and say, this is an attraction for you to bring people to buy homes. They're going to have their own community farm in the middle of the project. This is in the middle of Eastmark development across from the Mesa Gateway Airport. We did not give you turn left, turn right kind of directions, but most of you have GPS on your phones. If you have any trouble whatsoever, talk to me during the break or afterwards, and I'll tell you how to get up there. It's probably 40 minutes to get there, so I wouldn't lag too much. He also is the BCS dealer for this region. BCS tractors are made by Ferrari in Italy, and they are 2-wheeled tractors with a Honda engine that this handles will go sideways, they'll go all the way around. They have like 20 attachments you can order, and it's really a good size for a market garden. We bought one from him, and Ruben, you want to raise your hand, has been the only person in our group that can handle this 300-pound beast. And a friend of mine that has another market garden said, Lene, why did you get a tractor you have to wrestle with when I have one I can ride? And I said, yeah, but it's broken and it's in the shop right now. He said, you're right. So they are going to show you the BCS tractors and the attachments. It's about we bought 2 attachments we don't really need for about $13,000. You can get 3 attachments in the tractor to get really serious about producing if you want to start that way and work up to acreage later. Okay, I'm talking too much, but Eric is wonderful and you're lucky to have him. So we will talk to you later about getting your certificates. One last class is in April 14th. This is the January class that we moved into April. And then we will give you advice. If any of you have any questions whether or not you're going to hit 4 classes to get your cert, just call me on the phone. I'll talk to you personally. But by then, Dr. Tronstad, maybe you'll know of some other extension service classes they can use for makeup to get the certificate later. Is anything planned in the next? You don't know yet, COVID. He has a 1-year extension on this grant. Because of COVID, so we will find you some makeup classes so you can get that certificate. It does help you when you go to apply for a beginning farmer's loan or anything at USDA, FSA. So I will turn it over to Dr. Tronstad at this point, and thank you much.
Thanks a bunch, Lene, for all your work in putting all this together. I know the tour, I know we had a hard time getting the tour, and your persistence paid off there, so that was great. And I know there's a lot of things we're going to cover today may seem like not really that big of a deal, but hopefully they'll help you, especially if you're thinking about it in terms of putting your business together, and also in terms of going to FSA or wherever to get funds. Sometimes the corporate we're doing here is maybe not what we want to do in terms of being growing vegetables, be out in the garden and whatnot, but this is kind of an ends to a means in some cases to actually accomplish it. So we're going to talk about some business planning things. How about business canvas model? The business model canvas, has anybody ever heard that term before? That's something that they practice in the other colleges now, they talk about. So we'll look at that. But basically, it's kind of a concise way to kind of put your business plan together. It's not a complete business plan, but it fits in there. And SWOT. What does SWOT stand for? Okay, so we'll get there, I guess we don't, but yeah. This is opportunity stress. Okay, so look, there's two pictures up here on the photo, one on the left and one on the right. Okay? So, which one do you think required the most planning to get to? Yeah, the one on the left, right? Look at all the different products they have there, and they're all ready. What do you have on the right? You just have, a bunch of onions there. They're probably looking at them like, how are we going to move all these onions, right? So I mean, it's not by accident, I guess, that you wind up on the left over there. That's like the CSA basket that's been put together, or over on the right, where you just planted a whole bunch of onions, got a good crop, and then now you're looking, wow, how do we move this? So that's one reason why we need to look at business planning and looking at the markets and looking at a lot of different things. So we're going to go through some different examples today and try to get a feel for like where you want to be. This is up in Yavapai County, up in Tronstad. You can see the people lined up here. They actually have two point of service iPads. They use Square and they have the iPads. They're checking people out. Just that quick, does anybody here use Square? Oh, you do? Okay, because I need to talk to some of you afterwards, just about maybe a pilot thing we're working on with U of A on some stuff. So that's great. But they have a good lineup there. So how do you think they have such a good lineup? Yeah, they have what people want. Okay, so this is a lot of their product mix here. You can see they've got a lot of vegetables there, and they also have flowers. There's bouquets and whatnot. So it's not entirely food, but they do have a lot of carrots, potatoes. This is their winter market, so they didn't have as many. You didn't have like tomatoes and things that are more warm season, but that gives you an idea of kind of. They have a lot of quality products, I guess, to get a lineup like that at the farmers market, and I think they have often in the summer they'll have like 3 of those there because they have so much business, they can move people through it. They're still lined up. So I think Whipstone Farms that does that. They probably do over half of the business at the Prescott Farmers Market, because they just have a reputation and bring a lot of. Henry, are you recording Henry? Or, okay, thanks. Okay. He's working, sitting down. I didn't know. Okay. The other thing here to keep in mind here is competition. If you have an idea, I like this just because it says, the competitors may be closer than they appear. Because there's always, can you open the door back there for, thanks. So, competitors are always out there, so you might think of what are you doing that somebody's not going to be able to come in and just do right behind me. And I think you're going to be able to see that today when we go to Steadfast Farms as well. It's not easy. It wouldn't be easy for somebody to come in and do what Eric's done there. He's got a lot of expertise. He's got connections. He's got a lot of things where somebody can't come in and do exactly what he's doing. he could have competition on the fringes, but it's going to be hard for somebody to come in and do exactly what he's doing in the middle of the housing complex there, because he's the one that's connected in there and everything else. This is, what is the product here? This is up on the Navajo Nation. What do you think is the main product? This is actually grown out of Tuba City. This is a photo here. This corn here on the lower right here hadn't received any rainfall basically all year. When it rains in the spring and they have runoff in the arroyos there, they flood the fields, like 2 or 3 feet deep in water, and they have this clay, and that clay basically kind of holds the moisture. So that never received any rain on it, the whole year basically. It's just living on all that moisture. Whereas that right there, that was in August there, and they grow bunches there. Of course, they don't have squash in there as well, and other different melons there, and some beans sometimes as well in there with the corn. But with the corn product there, what do you think is the main product there, especially when we're thinking of the competition? They have different, what we, I guess, call Native American or Indian corn there, up there with different colors and whatnot, but that's not the main product. What is the main product? Does anybody know?
Cornmeal.
No?
Pottery.
What?
Pottery.
No. It's the pollen. Did you say pollen? Or no. But the main product is the pollen. So they use the pollen in ceremonial purposes. So it's like, it's supposed to be, kind of from this region and facing the mountain a certain way and whatnot. So it's not like anybody can just come in and sell pollen for their ceremonial purposes. So they were selling a little bags of pollen for like, I think it was $5, yeah. And some I think was 15, depending on the pollen. But anyway, Rosa there, who was growing that, she had all these other, the seeds and things and everything else. But she was saying that her main cash crop there was the pollen. So she was definitely in a unique position there in terms of the land she had there, and then the buyers that she had as well in terms of being, willing to pay for the pollen like that. So the competition there, is somewhat limited in the sense that nobody can just mail order from another state or wherever and bring pollen in for their ceremonial purposes. It has to come from that area there. This is an example here of someone, it's a pretty great idea, I thought. This was, he was in the Las Vegas area there, so he would take these herbs, he would just take a tray down and show the chefs, just give it to them, and then he was marketing, okay, that you can, clip these off in a pallet, and you have live herbs that you're selling, to the restaurants there. And so he was able to kind of get around some of the competition in terms of having to bid, because all the restaurants there typically go for bid on product, but because his was fresh, live, and not, cut off and brought in, he was in a different category, so he didn't have to compete bid head to head. He was doing quite great there, but he did have some health issues, and that's why I think he wasn't able to, finish out kind of what he was starting out there. So, the ideas hasn't really, taken off in part, I think, because of some of the health issues that he had in his age. So that just shows too, as well, in terms of your business plan, what is in place, if something happens to you as the main operator. What's going to happen to your customers? Is there contingency plans in place for the business to move forward or not? That's a lot, I think, in terms, especially when you get, you can't tell that to a 20-year-old, right? They make a contingency plan to a 30-year-old, but when people start getting in their 60s and 70s, you have to think around. I just had a classmate, pass away the other day from cancer, So, it's, high school classmate. So, that's something you always need to keep in mind in terms of your contingency plan. of who's going to be able to take things over if you're not around. Here we have one of, does anybody know who this is? Okay, yeah. So Emily, so she's one of our former graduates here at this class here. Then the Vigo, it means, I guess, the good life, anyway. But, you know, she has put together amazing things here and been able to do a lot just because of having kind of a unique niche here in terms of, you know, putting edible flowers and other things that are really kind of hard, berries and whatnot. They're kind of hard to grow in Arizona. And, you know, so I think when you're thinking of putting your business plan together, you have to think about, what am I providing that someone just can't go down to the grocery store and pick up right away? Is it in the quality, the freshness, or, and, you know, I mean, it may be that you can provide it in a season where it's not available, you know, because, I mean, you can sometimes get fresh strawberries seasonally, but, you know, getting them year-round, that's another thing. Same with, like, edible flowers, and that's what Emily was doing. So this is a photo here at Steadfast Farm. We were there a couple of years ago. It would be interesting to look at some of the changes here. But on these beds here, how many crops do you think Eric is taking off a year? You know, talk about how much he was generating in sales and whatnot in a year, making. How many crops is he harvesting off of those beds there in a year? It's like 8 or 9 anyway, he was saying, you know, so he's utilizing what he's invested in terms of the organic matter to build up the soil, the irrigation and everything, to harvest several crops off of this. And he's got a lot of, you know, different equipment. There's up in the upper right there, there's a little cedar thing there that he used for putting things in, and you'd have to buy transplants on like a strip, but they're always looking for ways to kind of cut down on labor. And there's the cooling that you can see on the lower left there. There's some greens there. They dry with fans. The fans push down air. So everything has kind of been, you know, built as a whole system there. And also, though, in the middle left there, that's just a regular refrigeration unit. So basically, it just shows as well that he's being creative in terms of to generate a cooling box. He's just using what's, you know, most economical. You can go down and buy these refrigeration units and you know, kind of trick them into running really cold with different things, so that he has that for his, like, you know, the deep cool box that he has. So I mean, there's a lot of different things I think you can pick up on this tour today. How he's trying to cut down on labor costs wherever possible, and he's also, you know, making use of kind of the lowest cost inputs he can when it comes to his infrastructure. Another thing he has here, we'll talk about this some as well, he has a high tunnel there. What are some things about this high tunnel that are unique, I guess, from a lot? If you have a hoop house, what's one of the biggest things you have to think about when you put a hoop house up with plants inside of it?
Heat.
Well, you have water, but the biggest thing is you have to think about opening it up, because it'll get too hot really quick, right? When the sun comes out, it'll just, you know, melt everything, right? All those plants will just wilt in there if you can't get the sides up and get the ventilation, but, you know, then it needs to come down in the evenings and whatnot. So you can see Eric here, he's got one here on the upper left there that has automatic, or there's a motor there that it moves based on the temperature. So when it warms up, it rolls the sides up, you know. So that gets, and then on the ends there as well, like I said, in the upper right there, it's hot. You can see there's vents there on the top. Those will open when it gets hot. You know? So it's not like you have to be there manually. I mean, that's one of the biggest problems with hoop houses and at schools, right? Because what is it? Because people don't go to school typically on Saturday and Sunday, you know? So, but the sun's going to come out and warm the place up. So, I mean, somebody has to go there, you know, 7 days a week, basically, to be able to open up those high tunnels and, close them back down. So it's kind of like having a dairy to a certain extent, in the sense that, you have to be there, the cows need milk and the hoop house needs, raised and lowered, regardless of what day of the week it is, or whether it's a holiday or whatnot. The lower there, those are some tomatoes he had in there. The other thing you'll note too in his high tunnel is that he's got double plastic, so the air goes in there, so that provides some insulation. So he's able to go down in terms of when it gets cold. He has a lot more protection that way than just that single layer. And the other thing too is, we'll talk about this some, but he had a cost share to put a lot of this up through the EQUIP program. There's a lot of funds out there for EQUIP in terms of high tunnels like this. They have to meet a certain criteria, but you can grow a lot of things in a high tunnel like this, microgreens and tomatoes and whatnot. And we'll see some of that today, I'm sure, in terms of what he's able to grow inside there. So, in thinking of your business plan, I guess 4 key questions here. What need or desire does your service or product provide? Is something. Oh, and the other thing I'll note too is next week, or next month, I guess it is, on our next class, I'll give you a flash drive that will have all of the slides and stuff on it anyway, and then maybe some of the video as well too. I can't get all the video on, but some of the video, so that at least you'll have some of that directly. You can put it in your computer without having to download. The other thing, think about what are your target customers. Why will they purchase from you? How are you going to reach those customers? And then where will your financial, the natural, your water, land, and human resources come from to start growth or sustain your business? So, these are kind of the simplified way of thinking of your business plan and being able to answer these 4 questions. There's a lot more to it than just this, but this is a good way to think of it in terms of getting started. And we'll talk about this some in terms of your vision and mission. What is related to what you have? How does that relate to your mission and vision? Your marketing plan related to your target customers, and how you will reach your customers as well. That also relates to your marketing plan. And where will these, financial and the land, water, all these resources, where will they come from? Okay? So this is an outline here of a business plan that gives a little bit more complete in terms of everything to address, these 4 questions here, but kind of put it in an outline for everything. So the first thing is thinking of like having an executive summary, and I'll take you to a link here it's a free link you can go to, and they have kind of templates you can go through with a lot more than just these items here to help you, I guess, in terms of give you a structure, I guess, if you want to go through things out. The main thing we wanted to do is have you put things together, at least so you can get approval for like FSA funding, which I would say would be kind of the minimal requirements you need for being farmers to get started. And you can see there's a marketing plan, a contingency plan. We're not going to talk about that, but that's something to think about today. We'll do that. But then also thinking about it on the last part there is that, any business plan, it's always revolving in terms of being updated. Whether you're Amazon or Steadfast Farms, whatever, you're always thinking about what is the next step. And I think Eric will talk about this today as well. Maybe I know he bought some land in Florence and different places around. I think in part because he's trying to get his labor year-round, so he can employ them year-round. Because that's a big thing in agriculture too, is you have seasonality, and trying to get your labor, employed year-round and it's not unique to just agriculture either, but other businesses have that as well. So this executive summary, think about what are the key elements there, the key objectives, and the idea is just something that you can give your lenders, employees, something, for what your full business plan is all about. So I talked about the business model canvas. This is a look here of what this is kind of structured like in terms of this format here. This is something that Eller College utilizes a bit in U of A. And I think the value of this here is this can kind of serve as almost like a one-page summary as well for your lender or whoever. Because what it does is it puts together like your key partners, key activities, the relationships, customer segments. There's the cost structure, revenue streams. So if we were to fill this in with some things that might be for a small beginning farmer, we could think of what are some of the key partners? Well, it could be even volunteers maybe. If you're running a nonprofit like Renee, I mean, those are some of the key partners he has there. What are some of the activities? Like with Steadfast Farms, I think they pretty much are able to do almost like daily deliveries, throughout a good chunk of the year. And I think that's what they're moving to. But the thing is that they have fresh local that can't be matched at the supermarket because they're taking it right there and locally and taking it to some restaurants as well as farmers markets. And I think they have some with the CSAs too. I don't know if they're still running the CSA or not, but I know they did at one time. So a lot of different things here. And also when it comes to cost, I mean, one thing that you have to think of here in Arizona is water, And if it's not quantity, it's a quality issue. Because like some of our soil, especially like in southeastern Arizona, I know like in the Safford area, there's water, but the problem is it's too salty. For even crops. So, that's, if they're tapped into the city water, that can be very expensive, because, if you're paying if it's $3.07 per 1,000 gallons, that's like $1,000 an acre foot, for water. Most of the cap growers or people that get water from the cap and whatnot would probably be maybe paying, $60 to $80, depending on where they're at, per acre foot of water. So I mean, that's a really high price that you're paying there. So you have to be getting high value products off of it to make that work. So this kind of framework here is something to think about, and you should have one in your packet here. I just put this in here. So on the one side, it gives you to fill in, and then on the other side, it has this text here to give you some ideas, I guess, in terms of everything that you might include there in terms of how you're filling it out. We could, you could spend some time and go through this if you want, but I think the key thing is to think about, what are some of your revenue streams, the cost structure, your partners, so if you can think about these different activities here and fill them out with your business, I think that'll be helpful for you as well as others that you might be looking to get into your business there. So vision. When we think of vision, we think of, we're looking off, something. Well, vision is looking to the future, of course. But think about it in terms of, your future contributions to society, the growth of people. Like Ben and Jerry's ice cream is a good example. Their vision is not necessarily to just, sell ice cream or whatnot, right? That they stated right up front that their vision was to be like socially responsible in terms of how they treated their, in terms of where they purchased their inputs for their milk into their ice cream. That they made a point early on, several years ago, before other companies started doing any of this marketing, that they wanted, their animals to be treated in a responsibly manner, and they were conscientious of the environment. And of course, we see this in a lot of companies now today, farms out, to run a lot of things. So that's, I guess, an important thing, but I think this comes down to a lot of where companies grow and don't grow. We think of like having a vision for where the future is headed is pretty important. What do we know about this? The company that's kind of used that totally blew it, right? In terms of looking forward to the future and growth. What was that? They used to go down there on Friday nights and pick up these CDs. What's that company called? Blockbuster. Remember them? They had the opportunity to actually, go with Netflix, but they were like, no, they were set on their business mindset of their model there. And what do we know? Nobody goes down to pick up CDs for videos anymore, right? So they didn't have a vision in terms of where everything was headed. So this has been in the news here the other day. This was March 11th here at the Packard and elsewhere. This is called Oshi. Oshi here means delicious in Japan here. So this company, they received $50 million in funding here for a vertical farm. They're doing in the Northeast, up in Manhattan area. That's no small achievement there. And they're basically set out there to aim to be the largest strawberry producer in the world. And this capital allows us to bring the best tasting, healthiest berry to everyone. From there, we'll quickly expand into new fruits and produce. So they must have a good idea if somebody's given them $50 million, right? Or maybe not. I don't know. Let's see, but you have to hand it to them. To raise $50 million in funding, that's pretty substantial by almost anybody's terms, right? So what is it they're looking at here? Okay, so in terms of their growing, they're trying to duplicate some of Japan's strawberries that grow in what they call the Japanese Alps. They have kind of a mild, dry climate that the strawberries really apparently thrive in. So in their controlled environment agriculture there, they're trying to replicate the environment that is in the Japanese Alps so that they can take this same variety of strawberry, which has a real creamier texture and the flavors that are not sharp but more gentle and fragrant. So they've identified at least their niche here in terms of they have a strawberry product that's different from what you can go and get down at the grocery store or anywhere else. So the question is, how much do you think people are willing to pay for any of those strawberries in Manhattan? We're not talking about Florence, we're talking about Manhattan, New York. Any guesses?
15.
15? Is it 15? Anybody else? Higher or lower? What, 5?
It's a lot higher.
5? A lot higher, okay. Yeah, so they're stretching around $50, yeah, for those big strawberries, yeah. So it's true that not everybody, is buying them, but they are selling some at those $50. So the question is it just a novelty or is it something that will stick to stay? But that also includes delivery to the World Trade Center, something like that. So I guess to say is that if you can get pricing like that, that's probably how you can get $50 million in funding, right? Because look at the margin that you have there in terms of, from your controlled environment. You can afford a lot of inputs if you can sell at that kind of price your strawberries.
Doesn't cost of living have something to play into that also?
Oh yeah, I think the value of $1 in New York at the World Trade Center versus here in Florence obviously is quite a bit different in terms of the cost of living and wages and whatnot. Yeah, that's what I said. We have to think about what the price is in Manhattan, New York, and not here. That's one of the reasons why they're growing them in Manhattan, right? Because there's limited fresh supply in the winter, right? You know, it may sound like you're going to grow them outside, or even ship them from Mexico very easy. You know. And the other thing too is they can, you know, pledging to go is basically pesticide free. I don't know if everybody's seen the environmental working group or aware of them. They usually do what's called like a dirty dozen review every year about now in terms of looking at all the different kinds of fruits and vegetables and whatnot, and how much pesticide residue is found on them. And what was number one on their dirty dozen this year? Huh? Strawberries, yeah. Yeah, they were saying that even after washing and whatnot, you know, it can be difficult to remove all of the synthetic pesticides because they've been on them. So that's another part of their strategy as well, and you know, another thing that can play into what you're providing versus maybe some of the competition. So these are some examples here, visions here, statements. The top one there, our vision is to be the Earth's most customer-centric company, to build a place where people can come to find any and discover anything they might want to buy online. Who would that be? Amazon, right? So the next one, our vision at this company is to be the world's first choice for protein while maximizing shareholder value. That's nice, yeah. You wouldn't think of this next one here in terms of the actual company, but their just vision is just to be the global leader in customer value. It's pretty generic. Yeah, you think maybe Walmart, but that's actually Caterpillar, yeah. To bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. If you have an body, you're an athlete. You should know that one, right? Who's that? Nike. Yeah. So it's interesting the history of Nike in terms of how, you know, they were basically nobody, you know, and they kind of came along with, in part because of the way they were marketing and doing their, targeting their customers that really allowed them to grow to be, you know, what they are in the footwear industry. Because they used to be hardly anything, you know, before Michael, I guess, no, you know, before some of your time period. You know, and when Michael Jordan first signed his contract with them as a basketball star, Nike was basically nobody, you know. So they both came through at the same time. This here is our neighbor's farm pantry in Graham County in Safford. Has anybody ever been to our neighbor's farm and pantry? But yeah, they have it's kind of an interesting setup there. They have a food pantry that's right next to the garden there. They have acreage, probably just about like it's only about an acre and a half, but they've done a lot of, they have a different manager now than they used to, but they grow a lot of things there. The idea was to grow fresh products and whatnot that they could then give to the community, you know? So, I mean, their mission, they're basically working for basic quality food for everyone in Graham County. Part of it was like the food bank would have a lot of processed items and canned and whatnot, but they didn't have a lot of fresh. And so part of the motivation was there to get more quality food to people, especially involved in the food bank there. And they having they're right next to a school as well too. So they do quite a bit of education for the grade school right there as well. But then they also have, you know, their harvest that they take right into the food bank there and distribute out to the community. So it's kind of a unique thing there. So a little bit different than the vision is the mission. You think of the statement of the what, how, for whom. Kind of reflects your core purpose, and it just gives a nutshell of information about the current business focus. I was involved working with Gore this last year on a project with a business consulting team in Miller College, and you know they do Gore-Tex and Gore-Wear and whatnot. But what they were interested in was basically is in terms of whether Gore could actually be used as well for like controlled environmental agriculture. They had something like their curtains, what they found was the need for, the difference between plastic and door is what? It breathes, right? So, that even also helps some of the plants to reduce some of the humidity as well. They're getting some increasing, diffraction of the light and whatnot through there. And there's some different tests and stuff and trials they have going on. It's kind of interesting. But in terms of their mission statement, it's basically tied to just using innovation and technology to address customer needs, kind of generic like that. But one of the things that I always found interesting too, in terms of their core purpose and identity, was that they don't have employees; they have associates. And so why do they call them associates? Well, partly because they have a lot of incentives, so that if you have patents and whatnot that you develop, that goes back to reward you as well, not just the company. Because Gore kind of got started in some ways because their founder way back when worked for DuPont, but yet, and he realized everything that he had there, but DuPont didn't really recognize what he had. And that's how Gore, they have like 10,000 employees today. So I mean, that is, in terms of their mission, how they initially started, it's kind of stuck with them, and I think been a benefit to their whole organization. So here's a mission vision example here. In terms of the mission is to engage with people through applied research and education to improve lives, families, communities, environment, economies in Arizona and beyond. And the vision is to be a national leader in creating and applying knowledge to help people build thriving, sustainable lives, communities, and economies. So what is the organization entity for that? Any ideas? Any guesses? It's who I work for. We make water extension. So I guess I'm not doing my job very well. You guys good guess? But that's, see, even as a faculty member at U of A, we have a mission and a vision to try and help keep us, focused, keep us on track. And I think it's good to have to look at these every now and then and see and what I'm doing. Am I addressing the mission and vision of my employer? Some other mission statement examples. To lead in corporate citizenship through proactive programs, reflect caring for the world. This company, our teammates, our consumers, and those who provide services to you. What company is this? Mission statement. Guesses? That's Nike. So they have their vision statement over here. If you have a body, you're basically an athlete kind of thing. Then they have a vision here to lead in corporate, or mission where they lead in corporate citizenship, their teammates, consumers, whatnot. Okay, the next one, dedicated to producing and marketing trusted quality food and products with today's changing lifestyles, attracting, rewarding, and retaining the best people in the food industry. And I thought that's Tyson. So we have their vision, vision of being like a leader in the protein. This is kind of their mission here. Okay, so everyone should be able to get the bottom one of that. To make the world's information universally accessible and useful. Where would that be? Google, right? I mean, probably how many times a day do people use Google? No, but I mean, I know it depends on the day, but some days, yeah. The next thing I'd like to point out is just on the last of this, the sheet after this business model canvas, there's a sheet here you can look at in terms of kind of your mission and vision statement, and in terms of kind of just jot some things down. You put there, and even if you're just doing it by yourself as a company, I think it's useful to put down to explain to others, because more likely you'll have some kind of partners or related to the business. It's pretty hard to do everything by yourself, that's for sure. So you're going to need partnerships, with buying inputs, selling, and whatnot. So having some of this down there, this is kind of a more condensed way maybe of putting down, instead of having your full business plan, this gives you some key things to focus on in terms of what you actually want to do and how you're going to do it and for who, and looking a little bit in terms of the day and the future. So, I think this is something good to sit down and go through. And you can, on the back side here, I didn't have a slide, but you can also, it has this thing for your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Maybe we'll get to that a bit as well. One thing I want to talk about too here is goals. And goals, we're saying, should be SMART. Okay? So what do we mean by SMART? These acronyms are pretty helpful. And so S stands for what? Specific, yeah. So you can be specific about what you want to accomplish and when. So even, I'll even sometimes put down a list of things to do for the day, or it could also be for, the quarter, the year. But it needs to be specific in terms of what that goal is to get done that day. Or, for the week, what happened. Specific. What does M stand for? Somebody said it. Yeah, measurable. You need some kind of metric that you can apply to those goals. Is it done or not? It has to be something that can be defined in terms of actually, did you accomplish it or not? And oftentimes this could be related to maybe to sales. Say you have a goal to have $5,000 in sales over a quarter or something like that. That's a specific and measurable goal for a given quarter. What does A stand for? Achievable. Yeah. And this is where it gets a little bit tricky, because you want to think of something that maybe challenges some of the goals, but yet you want to make sure that it's something that's doable as well. To just have a goal to have $250,000 in sales off an acre the first year probably is not feasible, even though maybe somebody else is doing it. But you have to think about what is achievable. R stands for relevant. How does it tie into the mission and the goal? So you want to think about your goal that you're doing. Does it relate to the mission and vision that you have of the organization? And the last one, T for time bound, in terms of having a target time on what you're doing. So this SMART acronym here, I think, is important to kind of keep basic things in mind in terms of how you're progressing with your activities there. The SWOT here, I think, is important in terms of just looking at, what do you have that makes your business a strength, or what are some of the weaknesses, and what are some of the risks and rewards. So this is just an example here. There's the blank one here, as I said, on this sheet as well. You can fill it. But think about what are some of the, the internal strengths you might have there. It could be you have multiple production sites. It could be, that could be a strength. Like Clyde was noting this water source. I think that's the envy of everyone in the class here, of having a reliable water source like that that's cheap. So, and the location is also a strength, like Clyde was mentioning in his operation, being close to Payson, but yet at different elevation, significantly lower, so you can grow a lot of stuff there that they can't grow in Payson. So to take, think of all those things as your strengths, but also think of what are some of the weaknesses that you have. Eric has a lot of things going for him as well as Steadfast Farm, but try to see what maybe some of his weaknesses are there. And like we were at Greenwood Farms, a year or two ago before COVID hit, and one of his weaknesses was basically it's just too dependent on the restaurant sector, with his microgrids. So you have to think about, people weren't thinking about something like COVID happening, shutting down all the restaurant business before, but that just shows the importance of having some kind of diversification to your strategy before something hits, because you never know what's going to fly out of somewhere and hit you. And that can be on the external factors. You have things, everything from a weak economy to pests coming from surrounding areas. That's a big issue, I think, in terms of desert production. I think there's no pests out there, but then you grow this beautiful oasis of a product. What do you find? And there's gophers and birds, there's all kinds of stuff come in, all around the area. So that's something to keep in mind when you build this out. I'm going to just run through a bit here in terms of a template here that is available. If you go to agplan.umn.edu, this is a product that put together by the Digital Center at the University of Minnesota, and with input from others around the country. And it provides a template that you can do to put together a business plan, like I was noting. It gives details on all these things, and I'll show you some screenshots of that coming up. But one of the nice things about it is you can put it together, and then you can invite people to make comments as a reviewer, or you can invite them where they have edit privileges, and they can write things in there. So you can share it with others, and of course, it may not fill in every form they have, but it shows you at least there's a spot there for it, and then it'll print out a business plan for you. And we'll go look at some of this. So basically, you have to sign in, you have to develop an account, register an account there. It has different features, as I said, like the editor, reviewer, and it has these 5 different types of business templates here: the ag commodity, the ag value added, the organic transition, the personal plan, and the small business. And so you register, you basically just need your email, everything that's starred there is a first and last name. So basically they're just asking for email for information, nothing more than that. I guess, your name could be fictitious, maybe, you never know it, but, the email has to come back for you to get your account approved. So these are the 5 areas here. I just selected on the ag value added. And this gives you the different areas that are available in the template of the business plan here. So you can see they have the executive summary is the first thing up there. It goes through then the business description, the mission statement, the goals, the plan, and the business description, operations, all the way down through, through to the financial plan. So you can see there's a lot of different things here that are involved in filling out a complete business plan. But, you want to at least be able to hit some of the highlights, and hopefully, we'll go over a few things with regards to the loan requirements too, to give you a better idea of what to focus on. So, it doesn't seem too overwhelming to try to do everything here. But the value of some of this is, like if we look at the licenses, permits, and regulations, legal things are something that's always typically comes up. Oftentimes, think about, if you click there, it gives you a link over here to some of the resources. And from there, if you click on the small business licenses, it will come up from the different states. And also take you to this, Arizona Department of Revenue there. And there you can see this will give you some links, to the guides for registering your business, the taxes and whatnot, and some additional resources. I know the frustrating thing is this is an awful lot of information you'll have to filter down through, because it's taking you links to other places, but at the same time, I guess it kind of makes you aware of different things that you might have to be aware of on the business side, maybe you haven't thought of there. Again, all these areas here, there's a lot, but focus on the things, having basic, with like the finances, the basic cash flow kind of things, and your financial that you put out, the marketing plan, what are kind of your competitive advantages, your customers, and the business overview in terms of your mission and vision. I still think they're very important when you're trying to sell. This is an example they have up on their site. They have some samples. You can see they're not completely filled out either, but this is just an example here of what they have as kind of the summary. We're transitioning to organic farms as part of the plan there. This is another one here, so direct marketing with beef. Talks about the Meadow Angus farm and 70-head beef operation, how they expect to go through in terms of direct marketing with beef there. So there's a little bit more examples, but you have to think if your farm is going to be different than anything else. So in terms of some of the other tools that are out there, these websites are useful. I think valueaddedag.org is something that has information on kind of niche markets. The Western Extension Committee put that together. This Ag Viability from Cornell has a lot for starting up pre-planning business guide. There's the University of Minnesota, that Biz Plan for farms and rural business. California has a pretty good site as well with their small farms program. That's a pretty good resource for not just production issues, which they have a whole bunch of stuff on it that I know Isaac refers to as well. But they also have some things up here on business planning, looking at small business administration also has a fair bit of resources available for some of the business planning. And of course, the ag plan here that I just went over. They have other resources and things that you can get connected to. So just to kind of summarize, I guess, think of the whole business aspect of it. It may be a lifestyle thing that you're thinking of, but at the same time, the costs do have to be covered from somewhere. I think a lot of, or maybe it's just college students think they're just concerned about the lifestyle, something that they want to enjoy. And that's good, but at the same time, it has to be something that covers and pays the bill, because the mom and dad are probably going to be there forever to pay the bills on the farm, like they're in our college. So, I think you have to make that as well in terms of your operation, something that you can put together at least cash flow. And that's where the financial plan in terms of revenues and expenses on a cash basis become very important. The goals and objectives, those can be helpful for determining where the business moves from one direction to another. And just realize that the business plan is something that's always going to be revised as you move from one setting to another. So that, I'm going to change over to the other slide there. Take a drink. We'll be right back here. I want to go over some things regarding how you might be able to get better set up for getting a microloan in particular, which is kind of the minimum